I've been on a journey of creating health in my life for over 30 years because I went through a pretty big crash when I didn't know what was going on with my health, my hormones. Nobody else knew. I attempted suicide twice. It's not a very pretty place to be. And it's not so much that I wanted to die. It's just my health, mentally and physically, hormonally, was so bad. I couldn't imagine living the rest of my life where I was at. I went to doctors. I had people pray for me. I did everything I knew to do. And people started avoiding me because what if her depression is contagious and it jumps over to me? Let's just keep her at arm's distance. It's a very lonely, very scary. It's an ugly place to be. But fortunately, somebody reached out, a helping hand to me, introduced me to someone to help me with my health. And it so dramatically changed my life. I switched careers from being a troubleshooter in the computer services industry to being a naturopath, a wisdom coach, but a troubleshooter in helping people create the health that they have longed for, sometimes for decades. Now, in the process of learning and working with tens of thousands of clients from around the world, I found that I needed a reference book, and I wanted to provide one for clients because I could never teach them everything I had learned in 1 or 2 or 3 appointments. I wanted to give them the basics. And so I wrote the book, Discovering Wholeness. Now, as you can see, it's a pretty big book. And the fact that I was able to write it in about a month says that clearly there was some anointing on writing this book. And what I want to do is share with you how you can maximize what you get out of it. Yes, my story is woven through there. The lake of unshed tears, the times when I wasn't blessed, but I went through such huge challenges, how I overcame them, how I began to understand for myself and truly with clients that if there's pain in a certain area or a certain health condition, here's what it means at the emotional level. I was able to put that in here in the form of a story with a reference book and an amazing index so that you can look up keywords and go right to the place that you want it. I love big indexes. In fact, there's 10 pages of 3 columns so you can look up key words. Now, here's what I discovered as people got it. They would look at it and go, I'm in overwhelm. Because usually if you have health issues, you're in overwhelm. So what I want to do is walk through the table of contents and show you key places in the book that you can use no matter what skill set you have. Now, as I go through this, just remember, there's so many other ways that I can help you in your journey. You can go to our website, CherylTownsley.com. There's resources, there's stories, there's blogs, there's a newsletter. If you're on Facebook, you can go to facebook.com/lifestyle for health, all spelled out, and that'll take you to my public page. Or you can also listen to the podcasts that I do that are summaries of what I do in the women's teaching that I provide. And that one is simply theeasypodcast.com. So those are additional resources. Now, let's get to the table of contents for Discovering Wholeness. You see, wholeness goes beyond health. It's about letting your spirit, made new with God, with a soul, in a body. All 3 are designed to operate in wholeness, not as compartments, not as, oh, you have this problem, do this, and this problem, do this. It's about how to weave and integrate wholeness, spirit, soul, and body, in a way that's as easy as possible so that your brain will accept it. So in the table of contents, it talks about the physical body. It talks about what does it mean when you have certain dental issues? Or what if you have an issue with a certain vertebra? Those charts are in there, and you can begin to go, oh, well, this vertebra can go with these organ issues or these emotional issues. Or you can look at a tooth. The other day I had someone who had a root canal. here, and they had a stressed nervous system and they weren't sleeping. We looked up this tooth on the chart and it impacts pineal, sleep. It impacted the knee and the foot where they had some trouble on that side of the body. In fact, when we went through that chart, it had kidney because they get up at night to go to the bathroom. It was like, there's something going on with the stress on this tooth. Now, you may not know exactly how to address it, but what you're doing is you're collecting puzzle pieces. And as you learn throughout the book, letting me help you, then what happens is, oh, now the puzzle makes sense instead of just a bunch of pieces that you don't know what to do with. The other thing that's in there is a fingernail chart. So much you can tell about your fingernails. They should be nice and smooth without ridges. They shouldn't have just a really weird shape. They should be a nice oval shape. Fingernails reflect your adrenals and exhaustion. So sometimes just looking at your fingernails or looking at your skin, you can discover a whole lot about your health, and you didn't pay anybody to tell you that. Now, once we get into the soul, there are some amazing things you can discover. This is looking at different diseases or difficulties with certain body parts, and it helps you to understand the behavior and the emotions that contribute to health issues with these symptoms, these diseases, these body parts. And what's very interesting is that when your brainstem, this part of your brain, is overwhelmed with stress, which can look very different from person to person, and no, it's not your schedule. It's just an accumulation of overwhelm and not knowing what to do. Then your brain will start dictating where these things go. You know, like if you're dealing with, let's say you're dealing with a lot of financial stress. Did you know that can show up in low back pain? Now, there's many other reasons that could impact that, but what we're after is starting to connect the dots to fill in the picture where you've only been blank. The way I created that section of Discovering Wholeness, I took about 4 months and I started creating a huge database. And so as I collected that this disease or this body part goes with this, and I created a very large database. Then about every week for 3 or 4 months, I had people randomly get on and share their top 10 health challenges. And then I would say, okay, this one goes with this goes with this. And I'd say, here's the picture of what we just saw. And they would go, how did you know that about me? And what was interesting is I asked them to pick the top 10. So out of their entire life, there's lots of things they could have picked. The brain picked subconsciously what was most important. And when I saw that work time after time after time, 100%, it nailed the issues for that person. Then we began to know, well, what could we do to support that emotion, that fear, that anger, that unforgiveness, that lack of blessing? What could we begin to do at a spiritual level, at an emotional level? And of course, there's many things that can be done at a physical level. So that little place there is huge. I remember one person that everything kept going back to anger, and they said, well, I'm not an angry person. And I said, great, let's look at the section that just shows all the behavior when it comes to anger. And they went, oh, that's me. And then we looked at the health issues that went with anger, and they went, oh, that's me. So don't go in defensive. Don't go in thinking there's something wrong with you. This is a discovery process. So I could spend hours on that, but that one's really useful. One of the others that I just want to highlight, there's an entire section on Bach flower remedies. These are little tinctures, flower essences, that help to calm the emotions. I know they're in Australia, New Zealand, throughout Europe, throughout the United States, Canada. I'm not sure about all the other countries, but they are so inexpensive, usually under $15. They're safe for pregnant women, for nursing babies, for pets, for the elderly, and for us. And you can read all about them in Discovering Wholeness, but what they're going to do is help you address emotional stress that causes your brain to go, Maybe you lose your voice and you have to speak publicly. Maybe you put a mask on to be cheerful for everybody else, but behind the mask you're falling apart. Or maybe you go from being this amazing woman of faith to hopeless. That's one that I've discovered about me, but I know how to interrupt it and I know what to do. Now, I could spend hours telling you all the benefits of discovering wholeness, but here's what I'm going to suggest. When you get your copy, look through the table of contents. Look at what sounds interesting. Read chapter 1, because that's how you'll begin to get to know me and a little bit about my story. And then do a cursory read of the whole book, and then go back and look at what's interesting. You may want to address, how can I let go of fear? Or how can I let go of anger? What if you've never been blessed in your lifetime? You see, God intended us to be blessed 7 different times. And if we haven't been blessed, the lack of a blessing is really a curse. So how can you put those blessings in place? How can you know how special you are? How can you know that your uniqueness is a gift and not a curse? As you discover wholeness, to become the whole person you were created to be, there's such freedom. It is a journey. It's not a microwave, push a button, and everything becomes perfect. But what I can promise you is on the journey, God will bring the people and the resources right alongside you so that you can discover what works for you. When I was sitting there 32 years ago, so depressed, attempted suicide twice, Forrest would make me promise each morning, will you be here when I get home? Will you be here all day to take care of Anna, our daughter? Because he knew if he could get me to promise, I wouldn't break my word for that 8 hours. And many times that was a huge struggle, but I had made a promise to stay alive one more day. I know what it's like to be at the bottom of the bucket, not knowing if your health can ever change. And today, in my mid-60s, I'm a completely different woman. And I've been able to help tens of thousands of people around the world. And my desire is to be able to help you create a journey that allows you to enjoy being you, enjoy making a difference out in the world, and doing it baby steps at a time, without judgment, without criticism, in a community who will support you, because that can make an amazing difference. God created you to be an amazing person. The challenges you face, when you walk through them, become the testimonies that will impact another person's life. So I bless you to take a baby step. Get your copy of Discovering Wholeness. Play and learn. Join us in all the things that we're doing so that we can further help you become whole, spirit, soul, and body.